Alright, we're going to talk about something today that might ruffle some feathers, might grind some gears. Gears. So if you're a rufflet, or cling clang, don't watch this video because I don't want to ruffle your feathers or grind your gears. Anyways, you know it's going to be a good video when I pull out the whiskey instead of the coffee. Sure my editors love to see that too. Anyways, we're going to be talking about how the newest Pokemon mainline games are nostalgia bait and probably not that good. And I want to talk about it. So if you'll excuse me for 1 second. Okay, so let's get started with the why you care, why you should even watch this thing. I took some time to analyze and go through a very, I would say, extensive kind of deep dive into Pokemon making its leap from 2D into 3D and kind of the steps that it took to get there, kind of what that meant for the franchise. Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? And kind of everything in between. Now, I will be the first to say I think it's a great thing. I do love Sword and Shield. I did enjoy playing through Scarlet and Violet, and Pokopia just came out and it was a blast. Legend ZA got kind of dunked on a little bit, but I thought it was a good game. Legends Arceus was also a peak experience, I think, for a lot of players. It wasn't exactly my cup of tea. It just felt a bit too grindy for me of you have to complete this many steps of the Pokedex in order to unlock the next level and things like that. But I'm always down to give it a try again. But anyways, all of that to say, Pokemon as a whole, at least in my opinion, I believe is a good game. And that's no secret. I mean, look at my room. I have a Pokemon tattoo. I love the games so much. But when they jumped from 2D to 3D, I think there was a very specific concern with, first and foremost, can Pokemon even function as a 3D game? And we'll talk about that. Secondly, are the games going to live up to their wonderful experiences in the 3D format? And finally, is it going to make the franchise better or worse? Right? So Pokemon is 3D, and it's never going back, at least to my knowledge, or probably won't ever go back. And with that, there's been a lot of concern over sales and is the game just as fun and things like that from more of the high-end community. So the community that's been with this game for a very long time, we're kind of get into that of how that's kind of separated itself now. But then also Nintendo, Game Freak, the Pokemon company, Pokemon as a whole has done such a good job at like marketing this game as, in my opinion, we're treating these games as like indie developers. Like,
oh, like it got better in this way, or it didn't get better in that way, or we'd love to see,
I don't know, voice acting. But they'll figure it out. Or yeah, it is the same game again with 8 gym badges, 4 Elite Four members, and a champion with a story that doesn't kind of go anywhere. But this time it's gonna be better, and we'll let them figure that out. And that's how we've treated these games for so long. I mean, I think Sun and Moon were the only games in the entire franchise that didn't have gym leaders.
am I wrong?
Stop it. Get some help.
Unless you count the Legends games. But Sun and Moon's the only games that don't have gym leaders, and they don't have gym leaders because You have the totems instead, which are arguably way more difficult, but still really, really cool. I think of this kind of in the same way, where it's like the game doesn't change, and we say that it's the same, and we say it's gonna get better, or it's not gonna get better, or whatever, but then it doesn't. And then the game is the exact same that it was back in 1976, I believe. 96? 1996.
Because we just had our 30th anniversary. 1996.
The game is the same game that it was in 1996, adding more gimmicks, adding more Pokemon, adding more color, adding 3D, adding open world and stuff. But it's the same game. You are still a trainer from a small town that collects 8 gym badges, goes on to defeat the 4 Elite Four members, then fights the champion, and has a little bit of a story through that.
The state of the game is the same thing over and over and over and over again.
And now we add 3D into the mix. Has that helped? Has that benefited us? So in order to talk about nostalgia, what I want to do is talk about some of the trailers. I want to go through a few of them, talk about what's in them, what causes us to want to buy these games, kind of what feeds on like our imagination or our nostalgia, things like that, and then what ultimately led to the sales of these games. I'll talk about if they were fixed or broken at launch, kind of what that means as well. And then at the very end of the video, I'll come back to sharing what I want to see in the future. We'll get started with first the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl trailer. And what I want to do is talk about specifically that you see all these kids, right? And I know it doesn't look like that much, but like even a kid running away from their parent, or this is specifically the scene of what makes a good Pokemon game, what makes me want to buy a Pokemon game when it looks like something I know. This map does not look really all that special. It looks like a very normal map that I would see in Gen 1, 2, or 3. And that was it. And then it showed some of the new animations with this flamethrower right here. And so things like that. Like, I think this game did a very, very good job of, and this trailer did a good job of captivating its audience. And then it ultimately was a great game. I think at launch, Diamond and Pearl were really, really fun, were really good. There was some things with like level curves and gym puzzles that were a little odd, but Platinum fixed all of that, and overall, great game. Moving forward to more of the Japanese trailer, mostly just to show some more like animations. They showed catching animation. Again, these trailers were hard to find. They showed more Pokemon. Sorry about the quality. They showed how the Pokedex, you move with the stylus. Again, just feeding on more animation things. And then that also, like when we talk about nostalgia, shows a Pikachu Volt Tackle and shows Roselia, who we've known for so long, being in Generation 3, I believe. I don't think Roselia was in Gen 2, but I could be wrong. That we're giving Roselia an evolution. It showed Munchlax at the beginning to kind of show Snorlax. We're giving it a pre-evolution, right? Like there is this level of nostalgia that's in there, which then causes, again, just showing that you can battle online, you can trade online, just kind of broadcasting just the game as a whole with Wi-Fi, things like that. So just showing, again, mostly there's just a little bit of, like I said, nostalgia there. There's a level of I want to play that game because I want to know what has changed and what's different. Again, treating it like an indie developer. This is Generation 4. This is the 4th go. So I want to know what's moving forward and how are we improving. Generations 1 through 4, not a lot changed and not a lot was different about the game. And then we got this trailer, which showed this medieval kind of story-based thing, which was just so new and different to what Pokemon was. Like, it might be Team Galaxy. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But in Generation 4, and even with Generation 3, like, the villains, like, with Maxie and Archie and stuff, like, they're doing something, right? And so then to start off this kind of game with this, like, kind of conquest, like, Obviously, at this point, we don't know that those are the villains. We couldn't possibly have any idea. That gets us an N and who they are. But just the idea that they're in the game and that it's kind of medieval, that it's... I think that already sparks the nostalgia. Okay, things are changing. This map is 3D. I mean, if we compare that to the freeze frame on the map of Generation 4, right, the map is completely flat. So again, things are changing, things are moving, and so we treat it like an indie developer. Brand new Pokédex. It's going to show us the starters. It usually does. There they are. And then you have these petals, and I really want to highlight this of like, okay, what else is changing with black and white? Oh, we have animation in our game that's like causing depth, right? This isn't even a 3DS game. It's just causing depth. We jump through things. Yes, does it look the cleanest? Maybe not. But there are cars that drive on an overpass. Like this world, like the Pokemon are moving while inside a thing. And this isn't like, I just think that like all of this combined, it just causes everyone to be like, yes, I'm gonna buy this game. You know what I mean? Like it has leveled up from what Generation 4 was. Really cool cutscenes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This game has cool cutscenes and cool things that happen. This art style at the beginning of N getting crowned by Getsis, like all of it is just very, very cool. The idea of liberating Pokemon, you get introduced to N in the very first town. While I think it is Getsis, or it's just one of the sages. No, I'm pretty sure it's Getsis is giving that speech. We treat this game, we treat this company as an indie developer that are constantly moving forward, that are constantly evolving. And so we're like, yes, take my money. Like, let's again, like just to show 2 and White 2, which we'll come to find did not do so hot. Because you just went right back to Unova. Again, we have the Leaves thing, but 2 years later. And so now we're feeding on nostalgia of, hey, guess what? Cheren and Bianca are back. You know, but now Cheren's a gym leader, and Bianca is doing this, and Alder's still there. And then it just introduces, I think Colress was in the first one as well, and, you know, Plasma are still kicking. Then there's Pelipper, things we know. And then this is also another thing with this game specifically that is, it's like, oh, like, who are you going to fight? Who's it going to be? Oh, it's Colress. That's crazy. And then bang, they're like Brock and Misty, Cynthia, like Steven, Misty, Gary, Blue, Lance, like what? Like that's crazy that they just like show all these people. They just rattle off all these old people, and you're like, that's awesome. That's so cool. And there's just so much good stuff in these games. Like I could not tell you a glitch in Black and White. I couldn't tell you a glitch in Diamond and Pearl. I couldn't tell you a glitch in Black 2 and White 2. Yes, was I a kid with an action replay? 100%. Did I walk through walls? Yes. Did that occasionally break my game? Yes. In Platinum, when you like left the Pokemon Center, did your character sometimes have like a little black box around them? At least for me. Yes, but you just walk through the door, walk back, and you're fine. I didn't have any game-breaking glitches, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The game's, to my knowledge, and if you have a different experience, then obviously leave your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. And then we get to Scarlet and Violet. And I won't bore you guys with this, but it's like, okay, a new game, free game. And then it just cuts straight to the game. And now at starting value, we could say, wow, the map is much more 3D. Like it just doesn't, like it, we got a 3D game. It's not the first 3D game by any means. And it's just like, we're getting like light glitches. Again, we don't have to go frame by frame through a trailer. Like, bing, bing, bing. Like, what? Oh, okay. Sure. We don't have to go frame by frame through a trailer we've already seen. But also these Starly flying by at first. The windmill and the Hoppip, I can't get over how this made it into a trailer. Like, this looks like a slideshow. If you watch this fan specifically, like, I don't know how that made it into the final thing. If you look at these just behind them, they're just not even moving in this frame. It just looks so sad. And again, we don't have to go frame by frame through a trailer of a game that's already come out. But it just boggles my brain how we constantly made steps in improving. We constantly made improvement steps of like, this is what's new and this is what's changing. And then we got Scarlet and Violet, and you know, the games were so broken at launch. Like, it was just awful. These games, like, even the trailers, like, they don't look that great. Like, what is going on with some of this? And I don't know. And again, this windmill is pathetic. The people. Anyways. But, like, there's just so many glitches, and this is obviously an exploit. It's not necessarily a glitch, but I mean, people found ways to literally fly throughout the map. Like, you could just fly. Great. So you could just get up ledges. Like, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, you could just fly. You could just run over everything and just fly over everything. Like, this was just a mechanic in the game. But my point is, how did we advance so far into something so sad? And then the games were just so broken at launch. And I mean, with Scarlet and Violet in particular, like, the game was arguably unplayable just because of how many game-breaking things would be in the game. Game-breaking things would be in the game, sure. I know, like, the very first cutscene for me in my game, when, like, I had Scarlet. So when Koraidon is supposed to, like, walk through and, like, break all the boulders from, like, the Houndour or Houndoom or whatever, at one point he just did not break the boulder, and I was just soft-locked. And that was my very first playthrough, and I just had to reset it. I laughed about it. I didn't think anything of it, and it wasn't until now that I'm like, what is happening? And then they finally let us go back to Gen 4, and that game is just so broken. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl was arguably one of the most broken games at launch. It was so easy for speedrunners to break and exploits to be found and stuff. And I think it's because Game Freak and the Pokemon Company now know that with these games being live service and being as big as they are, that they can update them and they don't have to release finished products. But it's like, that's just not how it works, you know? I'll just let this play, but I'm probably not gonna talk about it as much as I wanted to. But I think this idea of feeding off on our nostalgia and feeding on our love of this thing can only go so far. And then with these re-releases like Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, this re-release of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, at least it adds something to the game, right? At least we had Omega forms, right? Like for Kyogre and Groudon. I'm trying to remember their exact primal forms, which is so cool. And then they added Mega Evolution as well, and they added this creeping thing, and I don't know. I just feel like feeding off on our nostalgia can only go so far. And so, kind of looking at sales for all of these games, Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet have officially beat out Gold and Silver for sales, which I think is crazy. I think Sword and Shield was at least a working cooperative game when it came out, and it was cool. I've talked about it a lot, but Sword and Shield kind of got me back into Pokemon when I was kind of like losing interest, just because of how grand it was. Not only the Dynamax, like the Pokemon were big, but also that I got to play on my Switch. It's another image of it. It has a little different units. But some of the greatest games, in my opinion, the likes of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, right? The likes of Black and White and Black and White 2, the likes of some of these games just do not have any sales. Just a lot of people just did not play them. And I think that's crazy. I just genuinely, like, struggle to wrap my brain around that. And I was gonna, at this point, I have Pokemon Sword and Shield pulled up, but I'm not. It's just one of those things that I wanted to talk about in regards to, is this Pokemon thing sustainable? And what do I want from the future? Like I said in my review of Pokopia, I loved it. Like I've said multiple times, Sword and Shield, love the games. But I don't want to see any more of these 3D open world Pokemon games that go nowhere. Or are the same concept over and over and over again. And I don't think we want that. There was one portion of the trailer I remember in Scarlet and Violet that has the opening monologue that the Director Cavill, I think, shares, and he like has his like little monologue. And in his monologue, he has no voice acting. For so long, Pokemon has not had voice acting. And Zelda, for the longest time, didn't have voice acting. But then Zelda got voice acting. Pokemon has not had voice acting and has never had voice acting. And now I'm ready for it. And with Generation 10 coming out and everything that entails, I just want to see Pokemon succeed. And I want to see that be super, super cool. So, that was kind of it. My standard moving forward, I think, now that Champions is going to remove the thing that prevented Game Freak from being as innovative as they could have been, is I want to see Pokemon take off, and I want to see it flourish, and I want to see Game Freak add voice acting, add dynamic worlds, a cool story, and just let the games be launch fixed. Let them launch as full games. Because if I get one more 3D Pokemon game launching with broken mechanics, I'm gonna lose my mind. And you might be asking yourself, that's awesome, Jonah, but why did you just rant for so long about a franchise that you love? And the answer is because I enjoyed Pokopia so much that I started to be like, oh, I'm excited for Gen 10. And I started to get really hyped. And then I started to think about it and I was like, am I hyped for Gen 10? Like, if it is as infinite as they're saying it is, or the leaks have suggested that it is, but am I really hyped for it if Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet released in the ways that they did? Just not, I guess I shouldn't lump Sword and Shield in there, but Scarlet and Violet and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, like if these games released in the ways that they did, in the state that they did,
Am I really excited for Gen 10?
and I don't know, but maybe you are excited for Gen 10, and if you are, that's awesome. Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you liked this video, and with that, bye-bye.